Hello and welcome to episode 2 of the new Pangolin podcast. I'm your host, Toby German. Thank you very much for joining me. In each episode, I've invited a professional wildlife photographer to imagine themselves in a remote location. And along with their camera gear and supplies, they're allowed to bring 5 carefully selected photographs to hang on the wall of their humble dwelling. 4 of these must be their own images, and the final one must be one they admire from another photographer. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can see the images as we talk, but for audio listeners on other platforms, there's a link in the description to a gallery. We hope you enjoy it. On today's show.
And we just sat with a gin and tonic around a waterhole, not expecting much, to be honest, just enjoying life. And Big Bull arrived, and the colors in the sky were so beautiful. And suddenly all these giraffes started appearing out of nowhere. And I couldn't have choreographed it better for The Lion King on Broadway.
My guest today will certainly be a familiar face for those who regularly watch our YouTube channel, but for those who are new here, it's my friend and colleague, Janine Krayer. Janine was born in Frankfurt, Germany, and has been a Pangolin Photo Host for the last 12 years. Janine arrived in the Chobe in 2013 when she was dispatched by the German Development Bank to help market the Kasa region to tourists. But while she was here, she inadvertently fell in love with the region, as well as my business partner, Guts. And so fast forward to today, and here we are on a podcast talking about wildlife photography. And wow, what a journey it's been. Welcome to the show, Janine. How are you today?
Hey, Toby. Thanks for inviting me on the show. It's really exciting.
So you are the first Pangolin Photo Host that is going to be on the podcast. How are you feeling?
Never done anything like this before, but I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to share some of our stories together.
Well, I think normally you're the one who's creating all these amazing videos, aren't you? You've got a script to work with as well. And we've done relatively little preparation for this. So we're going to hopefully have a free-flowing conversation about some of your work and some of your life, what it's like to be a wildlife photographer in Botswana. So should we get started?
That would be lovely.
So, Janine, I asked you to choose 5 images, 4 by yourself and 1 by another photographer. How easy was that to do?
It's not that easy because after 12 years of wildlife photography, I've been fortunate enough to encounter so many incredible wildlife moments. And I don't have a good memory for names or faces, but when I see pictures, all the emotions flood back to me. So I have a lot of emotions linked to these images. So trying to pick those that mean the most to me wasn't that easy.
That's exactly the premise. It wasn't supposed to be, the award-winning, the best, the most technically proficient images. The idea is that you come back from a long day out in the field, back to your humble dwelling, and, you're sitting there with your cup of coffee and you want to be able to look at these images which stir some emotion. So tell you what, let's start with the first image. This is an image you took in South America. It's a puma. Tell me a little bit about this.
It's a puma that's coming straight towards me through some bushes as I'm sitting on the ground about 25 meters in front of her. It was only taken last year, and it was one of my big dreams to visit Patagonia. I'm a big fan of the mountains. Botswana is flat as a pancake, and it's something I miss, the dramatic landscape, the blue of the glacier lakes, the colors, it's really dramatic. And to have a large cat in that landscape and to be able to find it, not just find it, but track it on foot and be immersed in that landscape was spine-chilling, was beautiful.
There are very few places in the world where you're going to be able to go and track a big cat on foot. You're never going to do that with tigers in India, certainly not doing it in Botswana. No. That must add a whole new dimension to the experience, doesn't it?
Yeah, it taught me again that you really have to listen to your guide and your tracker. With African experience, it felt slightly out of place, especially when that cat starts coming straight towards you. And I know they normally don't target you, but they certainly target prey that's larger and heavier than what I am. So yeah, you have to put your full trust in the guide, no matter what region in the world you are visiting. That's why it's so important to have a naturalist or guide on your side.
And you mentioned earlier that obviously it's the mountains. This is quite a close shot. What was your thinking with all of those landscapes and mountains behind? Why this shot and not something with a bit more of the background or the surroundings in it?
Well, in that moment, there was two reasons. She was facing us directly. I really liked the framing of that round bush on the one side, in the shallow depth of field of the grasses in the foreground. And when they come straight at you, you really want to put an emphasis on these eyes. But I also didn't want to include the sky above. I really wanted the mountain face, which was far away behind her, but to be the full backdrop. I didn't want another color change towards the top of the frame. So I went in a bit tighter. And I've found that these cats, like they're supposed to, most animals are supposed to camouflage beautifully in the landscape. And when you shoot them wide, if they are not standing on top of a ridge, standing out, sometimes they get lost in that stunning landscape. And it's actually quite difficult to pick them out in a photograph.
Beautiful image. First up, a Puma from Patagonia. As I mentioned in the intro, you're born in Frankfurt, Germany, and you didn't study photography there. What did you study in Germany?
I have a finance and economics backdrop. I've been quite good with numbers, and like many people, thought finance was a good way to go.
Would you consider yourself as a photographer? I mean, we always talk about this, people, left brain, right brain. Are you more scientific, mathematical, or a bit more artistic? What side would you put yourself in?
Well, if you follow my images, you might have noted I'm a bit more on the creative side, actually. While I do like numbers, I want my images to have an aesthetic appeal and to have some mystique to them in many cases, because I think somebody needs to be caught to look twice in order to be captured by an image. Some people are more for the documentary style photography. I like to have an artistic edge to it.
I can't even remember if that's left brain or right brain, but anyway.
It's a brain.
It's a brain. It's a brain. Maybe yours is sitting neatly in between, because I mean, that's the thing. We always say that, people arrive and a lot of people get the mathematical, the shutter speed, the aperture, and they get that side of things, and they can take a lovely sharp image, but they're never really telling a story.
It's a storytelling, but it's also the atmosphere you create. And I think, the atmosphere is part of the storytelling.
That's the main part of your job, isn't it? To tell people, explain to people that they have to tell the story. Otherwise, the image is static.
I try and really emphasize it with my guests. There's times to watch. I call it eye candy. And there's times to shoot. And the watching for the photographic process is just as important, because you need to learn about the animal, understand its essence, its behavior, before you can make the choice what you even want to capture about it. How can you tell something about the animal if you know nothing about it?
We often have people joining us who, is maybe a husband and wife, and one of them is the photographer and the other one isn't. But actually, we tend to give them a camera and turn them into photographers. And how do you find that when you have somebody who is just, no, it's fine, I'll just watch, and then you give them a camera? What does that feel like?
I'm quite forceful with them to at least give it a go. I'm a bit annoying about it. They can throw the camera back at me, but many times, because they are used to watching, they're actually really good at it. I don't want to, stereotypes are often true, but photography traditionally has been more a male-dominated hobby, and it is often the wife. And again, it's stereotypes, but the females often have the more creative edge. And it's lovely to see somebody within the first 2-3 shots, they might not get the settings right, but you can see they see. And when you see that edge coming through, it's really excited, because now you can take the people from just down there and guide them through the journey. And it's very, very rewarding.
Brilliant. Okie dokie. Well, shall we move on to the next image?
Love it.
Janine, the second image you've chosen is it's Chobe. It's your home. Tell us about this image of it's an elephant and its baby.
It's all the things I love. Just like you said, it's my home. That landscape, for anybody who's been in Chobe, will identify it instantaneously. And Chobe is all about elephants. It's quintessential elephant country. And because it's got a lot of water, and it got a lot of water all year round, it has a lot of breeding herds. And watching the breeding herds, and specifically the mothers, engage with their young, teaches you so much about elephant behavior and their emotional intelligence. I cannot go past a baby elephant and not pick up my camera. It doesn't matter how bad the shot is. I must have photographed 10 million of them. It's my absolute favorite animal in the world. And I think one of the most difficult animals to photograph at the very same time. They don't necessarily make for great pictures. They make for great stories.
Why do you think elephants are difficult to photograph?
Any animal that's that size is difficult to not just put lumply into the frame. Very straightforward, big gray canvas with literally not much on it. And because they are, especially in Chobe, often very dark after they swim, they're almost like a black hole. They just suck your light away and drive your ISOs straight up. So a lot of elephant shots are shot on quite high ISOs, and they're just not naturally as aesthetically pleasing as, let's say, a leopard, for instance. They're these big things.
Like you say, it's a very large subject, and we're very lucky in Chobe that, the elephants are very relaxed. And so we can sometimes be photographing them from, a matter of meters away. I have seen you, trying to stop people from photographing the whole thing and then trying to photograph bits of elephants.
That is for two reasons. Number one, when they're close, but not close enough for a wide angle, the long lenses often can't fit the whole thing in and people panic. But because they're just big and gray, it's really lovely to look at their actual details. They have phenomenally long eyelashes and these auburn orange eyes that, if you manage to get a glimpse at them, have an enormous amount of intelligence behind them. And they have actually a lot of hair on their lips and their trunk. And there's so many lovely details on them that you will never see unless you zoom all the way in.
And it's the texture as well, because you've chosen to edit this image in black and white. What was the thinking behind that?
It was a very high contrast image. So this mom and baby pair just swam through the Chobe. They came from Sadudu Island, which is a place they go grazing in the dry season. So babies can swim from a very, very young age, which is really cool. So they're very dark versus the very bright river and the bright sky. And then you have a monochrome animal to start off with. So black and white suited it in order to bring out the wrinkles and
And I love the way that, I don't know, I haven't seen the frames before or the frames after, but it's the gentle touching of the mum's tail on the head. And I think that's what really makes this image. It's showing that connection.
That's what I mean. If you watch them, it's not putting human emotions on them. They are so emotional and so careful and so gentle and so very, very caring with their young. And I always say, when the little one is just by mum's heel or just by mum's tail, you don't even need to fit mum in. You just need that size relation so you see how small they are.
And how old would you say this calf is?
He knew how to use his trunk. They learn that with about 6 months upwards. He was definitely under a year because he's small enough to fit easily under mum's belly to drink milk. So between 6 and 12 months, roughly.
There is nothing cuter than watching a really young elephant not being able to use its trunk and face planting in the river to drink.
It's like,
if your heart doesn't melt, you're not a real human being. It doesn't work.
That's what I say. I'm like, how can people actively that have the chance to see something like that say no? How can you not want to see that?
It's a beautiful place to watch. Chobe is home to, I don't know what the latest count is, but it's certainly over 100,000 elephants. And you can get to a point where you're going, right, okay, let's move the elephants out of the way. We need to photograph something else here. There's just elephants, too many elephants everywhere. Although maybe you disagree that there is such a thing as too many elephants.
My mum asked me when I first started here, obviously my parents were not excited about me moving halfway around the world. She says, won't you get tired of looking at elephants? I said, I will never, ever get tired of looking at elephants. That's the whole joy of my job.
And that also brings us on to, what an extraordinary path you've chosen. There you are studying finance in Germany and thinking, well, I'll go to Africa. This will be an interesting experience. And you're the original Pangolin Photo Host, ignoring Guts. Guts is my business partner, but the first Pangolin Photo Host. How daunting was it? I think, if I remember correctly, Guts threw you right in at the deep end and said, I need help. You got to go and take some people out. I think you were just getting into photography. How was that?
Let's say I was young and stupid. It wasn't daunting. Sometimes your life path just falls into place. My father always said, don't worry about what you study, Janine. Life will find its way. And it certainly has for me. So when Guts asked me, I wasn't hired. I just needed to help out. And I had been out with him nearly 100 times. I've seen how he does it. And I have loved photography before I came. I did it in school, did an internship in school, noticed you can't earn any money with it. What do they say? If you want to become a millionaire, you need to start off as a billionaire.
Yeah.
So I left that side, but I came with a camera, and I absolutely loved combining the creative part with the wildlife that I love so much. So when I was asked, I didn't think twice about it. The people were nice. It was easy enough to make them excited about what they see. So it worked really nicely.
And now here we are, leading trips all around the world. Who would have thunk it back in the day?
No, we
had
could
one
have.
boat, one photo boat,
Yes,
a few
literally.
cameras, one jerry can of fuel. We used to go and fill up the fuel before every trip. What a journey
No,
it's
it's
been, eh?
different.
I'm so glad you've been there through the whole thing. And yes, I can attest to the fact that, unfortunately for everybody else, Guts is an irritatingly talented photographer who kind of makes it look effortless. And they were certainly big boots to fill when he sent you off on your own.
It certainly were. Guts was known within Pangolin, and people were expecting him. He is incredible with people. He's even better with photography. And a lot of people expected to be hosted by Guts and were somewhat disappointed when I would show up. That has changed only really since the YouTube channel. The YouTube channel has helped incredibly because people know my face, they know what to expect and trust me ahead of time. And I think it has helped all of us in that sense.
And I think also all the work you're doing as well, where we're working with several Botswana citizens, and they've been working with us for many years, and now they are up to a level where they're hosting their own groups. And credit needs to go to you for the hours and hours of mentoring that you put in to take people who've never really done wildlife photography before to a level where they're able to host international clients and, go through what you went through.
And they have the same problem with people not recognizing them. So it is our job to put them out there too. But if I learned it coming from finance, why can't they?
And on that note, Janine's actually this year produced with them a beginner's wildlife photography course at the Pangolin Photo Academy. So if you want to touch up on some gaps in your knowledge, then you can go and do that. All the courses are free. And that course is produced by Janine, but presented by Walter Passetso and Youngman, who are the next generation of Pangolin Photo hosts. So go check that out. I'll leave a link in the description. It's a very, very cool course. It's only been out for a couple of weeks and over 1,000 people have already done the course.
That's really impressive.
So now before we move on to the next image, we're going to take a quick break. And when we're back, we're going to move on to Janine's next image. Welcome back to the Pangolin Podcast. Today with me, Toby, and Janine Krayer. We are now moving forward on to image number 3. Now, I have a confession to make, Janine. I was scrolling very quickly through these images and I saw this and I went, tree squirrel. We see a tree squirrel, and then especially if you have a backlit tree squirrel, then you often have this ball of a shape of an animal and then the long tail hanging down. And I'm so used to seeing
backlit tree squirrels have you seen in your life?
I'm sorry. I look at a lot of images and this. Tell everybody what's actually happening in this photograph.
Okay, it's definitely not a backlit tree squirrel. It's a young, about 5-month-old leopard cub that climbed into the tree just in time for sunset and was posing in front of the orange setting sun with the sunlight coming through the leaves being dispersed and sparkly.
Okay. Oh, no, I see it now. Oh, that's not a tree squirrel, is it? No, that's okay, good. That's
grateful you
baby
see
leopard.
it.
Took me a while. And tell me, where was this photograph taken?
So that photograph was taken in the Okavango Delta.
Mm-hmm.
Must be one of my favorite places in this whole entire world. I always say, if I can have a house, which you cannot, by the way, if I could have a house in the Okavango Delta and I could have a house somewhere in the mountains in Switzerland, I would be the happiest girl. It's a magical place, and I think one of the most beautiful environments to shoot wildlife in. We had a bit of 2 quieter days, and that baby gave us about 5 minutes. And I'm not sure my guest understood how incredible the sighting actually was to have him sit there against the sunset. It was technically quite challenging. It's a bit of a HDR shot, but to me, it was a dream come true.
For those of us who are, befuddled by several things to do with a more technical photograph, just explain to me about what you mentioned there with the HDR.
we're shooting straight into the light. And when you do that, you often tend to get a black animal. That could be a lovely silhouette, but in this case, he was halfway covered by the trunk behind, so he wouldn't stand out. It would be black on black, and the leopard cub would pretty much vanish and become a tree squirrel, for instance.
There you go.
So
now you
instead,
understand.
you need to shoot it bright enough that the detail of the leopard still comes out without burning the background entirely. And that's when you have to become a little bit more technical. You have to watch your histogram to make sure you don't burn everything. I think I burned some of the areas in the back happily because it looks like sparkles coming through. And if some of them are white, I don't mind. But the priority was that the leopard cub wasn't entirely shady black.
But it's one shot. It's not a composite.
Correct. Yeah. And that's a good point you're making. A lot of HDR shots are bracketed shots where you have different exposures that you lay over each other. But with wildlife, that's very difficult because wildlife moves. So even if you fire 3 successive shots quite quickly, you're not guaranteed that the animal hasn't moved from its position. So with modern cameras, they have such a wide dynamic range. You can do a lot more in the shadows as well as in the brights. It's really incredible the details you can get away with.
It's interesting what you say there about the HDR capabilities, the dynamic range as well. Because obviously, since we started Pangolin, we could never have run Pangolin if we were on film cameras. Can you imagine? Everybody sort of sending us their photographs after getting them developed at snappy snaps and asking them what we thought of them. With digital photography, that was the big game changer and allowed us to run the business that we have now. What effect has the quantum leap that has been in development to mirrorless had on the way that you can teach photography as well?
It's a huge effect. Things have changed. Like you say, film doesn't give you that instantaneous feedback. By the time you develop your image, you don't quite understand or remember what settings you use. So DSLR allowed us to have that instantaneous feedback. But mirrorless now takes that a step further because not just do we understand what settings each photograph is taken with, but we see the exposure compensation change in the viewfinder, which is often a big thing that baffles beginner photographers, is the exposure compensation. So you see your image getting brighter and getting darker, and you have the AI algorithms to help you focus. However, it also makes people lazy. A lot of people say, I just roll the wheel until it looks great. But in order to really become faster in wildlife photography, you should understand what you're doing before you do it. And the same holds with the algorithms for eye detection. A lot of people claim it's the best thing in the world, and I don't say that it hasn't revolutionized photography. It's phenomenal, but it's not infallible. And especially when it comes to larger and slower mammals, it's sometimes just better to place your own focus and understand that you have targeted it correctly. It's not on the nose, it's not on the ear, it's right where it needs to be. And people are too lazy to even attempt to get better at focusing at this stage because a camera does it all. So it has a pro and a con.
My animal eye tracking struggles with hippos. It's got no idea where the eye of a hippo is. It goes nostril, ear, nostril, eye, back to nostril. So I don't know. Maybe that's just also me. Maybe I'm just not as competent.
It has gotten a lot better. I mean, it's amazing to watch the algorithm evolve. In parts, slightly scary.
And do you think that with mirrorless, look, I mean, it sounds a bit facetious, but is it becoming too easy? It would theoretically then become more difficult to take a truly great shot if everybody is getting better through technology.
No, I don't think so, because to be a good photographer, you still need the eye. So much is dependent on your composition and where you position yourself with regards to where the light falls in. And despite all the assistance, people often miss the right moment because they don't read the animal right.
There's only so much AI can do. Is that what you're saying?
It helps with your memory collections. Mm-hmm. Everybody can collect memories, so do some documentation about their holiday and their trip. But to become a good photographer, those are crutches, but they're not going to take the work away.
Okay. Shall we move on to your fourth image before we move on to that you've chosen by another photographer? Tell us about this one, please.
It's elephant bulls standing close to a set of waterfall against the blue hour of the sky after the sunset. The sky has the most incredible colors. And in the backdrop, you see small little giraffe silhouettes surrounding him, even between his legs.
It's an amazing shot, and it filled me with joy because I know exactly when this was taken. This was taken during COVID. So this would have been late 2020. What were you doing out photographing during COVID when the rest of the world was in lockdown? Janine, would you like to share how tough this was for you during COVID?
Matter of fact, lockdown was way stricter in Botswana than many other countries. The first 3 months were hard. There was no leaving your home at all. It was troublesome to go to the grocery store, no exercise, no dog walking. But after that, you were allowed to move within your province. And, it's quite difficult to judge the boundaries of your province if you're only off-roading. So
Right.
we might have ended up.
Did you get lost, Janine? Did you get lost and leave your province by accident?
That was totally by accident. But essentially, what we did is Sabine and Charles packed their car, Guts and I packed our car. And with interruptions, with breaks, we camped just over 10 weeks within Botswana. And we had permission of a lot of the private concessions to drive through them because they were struggling with unauthorized people there and they wanted eyes on the ground. So we had the most beautiful time of exploring Botswana without seeing any other guests, without seeing any other tourists, without bookings. We could camp where we wanted to. We could stay as long as we wanted to or leave. And it was like experiencing Africa in 1920 with a brand new car with air conditioning and a fridge. It was absolutely phenomenal.
I mean, when life throws you lemons, what do? Well, you go on a 10-week road trip through Botswana, obviously, is what you do. And there is a film about this called Into the Kalahari. It's on our YouTube channel. It's a really cool video. It's lots of fun, lots of humor.
I think it was one of our first YouTube videos, and it was to encourage people to travel again, show them that other destinations still exist. They haven't vanished throughout COVID. And for me personally, it is one of the best times I've ever had in my life. Being out there with my best friends and with Guts and exploring. We literally habituated lion cubs that have never seen tourists before by just being able to stand there for 3-4 days and watching them without leaving because we had no itinerary. We didn't need to tick lists. We didn't need to show anybody anything. We could do whatever we wanted to do.
And I remember the moment that this photograph was taking. I think that there was a microphone on Charles and he was describing what was happening. And then suddenly all of these giraffes just started appearing. Talk us through the moment.
We had the most magical trip with everything happening. And we just sat with a gin and tonic around a waterhole, not expecting much, to be honest, just enjoying life. That big bull arrived and the colors in the sky were so beautiful. And suddenly all these giraffes started appearing out of nowhere. And I couldn't have choreographed it better for The Lion King on Broadway. I couldn't have dreamt it up. It was goosebumps pure. And everybody who I care for and who would love this was there to experience it together with me. And it was very difficult photography in the sense that we barely had light left. I don't know if you can see, but I shot it, I think, on an 80th of a second on a long zoom lens, not a mirrorless. So there was no in-body stabilization or any of these sort of things. But you know what? If all of these photos wouldn't have turned out, it would have been just as beautiful as an experience.
But you nailed it. It's certainly unique. I mean, like you said earlier, you find it difficult to photograph elephants. And yes, you photographed millions of them as well. But this one must sit up there in, the top 5.
It is. And it's weird because I'm not a huge fan of silhouettes. They don't need a lot of creative thinking. They just appear, which is wonderful. And they make any sunrise or sunset beautiful. And normally they don't require a lot of hard work. But when I get a good sighting like that, like a life-altering sighting, every now and then it happens, I tend to not look at my images immediately because I don't want the emotions of the sighting to be dampened by the disappointment of not being able to capture the shot. I don't want it to be about photography, even though I attempted to photograph it. So if I look at it a week or 2 weeks later, my emotions are taken out of it a bit and I don't become so terribly frustrated or sad. And the moment stays special for that moment.
But you did get the image to remind you
I did
afterwards.
it.
But I think that's an important thing as well. We often find people, they take a photograph, they go, oh, look, I got it. And then immediately they're looking back through their images and they're looking at
I
it
think
and,
it's
and
so
they,
sad.
they're out of the moment. You know,
Yeah.
I think we call it chimping, don't we? They're like a chimp just staring down at a little object. We're like, no,
And
keep
nothing else
looking. Something
matters.
else might happen. Something else might happen.
They miss the next moment, or the entire excitement they felt a second before evaporates and is replaced with disappointment, which is really sad, actually.
So this was just before COVID. I think we had started talking about developing the YouTube channel just before COVID. I think we made some videos in November 2019, and COVID gave us the hiatus to actually start focusing on developing the YouTube channel. I mean, it's been absolutely extraordinary. We literally today, I got a notification that we've just hit 10 million views.
What?
Which 10 million views of, I mean,
mad.
it's mental. So how's it changed for you? Because you get recognized, don't you?
I do actually, mostly in nature places where you would encounter photographers. Most people are very appreciative, which is obviously beautiful. It's beautiful to get to see them and know that they take something away from your videos. But we never anticipated feedback like that, ever.
So thank you to everybody who is here, who is already a subscriber and a follower, who has contributed in their way to our 10 million views. That's just mad.
Thank you, guys.
And long may it continue. We've got lots of new video ideas, which we shall put into production, and we're going to figure out a way so that Janine gets more time to indulge in her creative process. We are getting to the tail end of our interview with Janine. So before we go to the image that she's chosen by another photographer, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we'll reveal which image she's chosen. Welcome back to the last section of the Pangolin podcast with me, Toby German, and my guest today, Janine Krayer. Now, at this stage, I asked Janine to choose an image taken by another photographer that maybe she wished she'd taken, that inspires her. Her image today is one of those images. I see a lot of wildlife imagery, and apart from issues surrounding tree squirrels and baby leopards, I can pretty much always tell, you know, what it is, probably guess where it was taken and things like that. But this is an image that made me stop dead in my tracks. Do you want to describe this image?
So the image is taken by Hannes Loffner. He's a good friend of mine and a huge inspiration to me. And it is an image of, I think I can see 3 small elephants at the bottom of a frame, but they are shot through a leaf that has been eaten by either a caterpillar, maybe a grasshopper, who knows, some sort of insect has perforated the leaf. So it looks like a Swiss cheese. And he has framed these elephants through the holes of the vegetation. And on top of that, it gives you a very nightly feeling because it is created on a very cold temperature. It's got a blue tint to it. So it feels almost nightly and cool.
It's extraordinary. And like you say, if you're going to photograph an elephant, you've got to come up with a way to make it original. And I don't think it gets more original like this. I'm also a huge fan of Hannes's work. He's pretty legendary. And to top it all, he's a terribly nice chap and jolly good fun to be on safari with. So why did you choose this image in particular?
Well, you pretty much summed it up. It is so different. Have you ever seen an elephant shot like that? And that's what I love Hannes for. He always thinks out of the box. He finds different angles that make you think. And when I was starting off in my wildlife photography journey, he said to me, Janine, you mustn't just go out there and take pictures. That's not how wildlife photography works. You need to create an image in your mind, sort of like an artist would that is about to paint an image. And then you find the ecosystem, the environment, the time of the day that most likely makes that shot happen. And then you work on that shot until you get it. And if it takes you 20 years to get that shot, then that's that. And he has got many shots that he took years and years until he captured it to get it the way he wanted it. And I know some of his ideas, to me, they're mad. I was like, when will you ever see that? He says, no, I've seen it before and I will capture it. And that's how he approaches wildlife photography. It is fascinating to me.
And it's time as well. I mean, Hannes will go and live in the bush for months waiting to get those shots. One of the things I remember him telling me as well is one of the questions we always get asked is, when's the best time to come and photograph? And especially in Botswana, it's all year. But there's one time of year that he particularly loves, and that is what we call green season, where it's a bit more rainy, because he loves clouds. He loves the dramatic buildup of a storm. But what would you say to that? I mean, do you have a favorite time of year to photograph as well?
Well, I definitely prefer the green season over the dry season. Yes, you see animals more easily in the dry season. You also see more animals in the dry season. But number one, the clouds. Blue skies they remind me like they came straight out of a bubble gum machine. They're horrible. So skies are incredibly important. I love green contrast. You see cats so much better. All these orangey yellow animals, they pop. And for me, most importantly, it's the time of the year when the animals are healthy and happy. So while you might not see as much, when you do see animal interactions, they're more energetic, they're more playful, they're more happy because they have the food and the calories in order to be playful. And you see the joy in them. And for me, that is important.
Most of the time when I go on safari now, it's February, because it's beautiful. And it's like you say, lots of baby animals running around, frolicking around, happy, all that beautiful verdant green backgrounds. Yeah, big fans. I spoke to Hannes because obviously I said we were going to use his image. And the good news is Hannes has agreed to appear in the podcast as well. So he will appear in a few weeks' time. So if you haven't subscribed yet, please make sure you subscribe. And if you have any comments about this one, if you have any suggestions as to who we should invite on the podcast, please put it in the comments down below. Janine, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today. It leaves me with the final question I like to ask all the guests. Going back to the premise of your humble dwelling, if you were able to decide where your humble dwelling was going to be, where you could photograph for the rest of your life, where would that be?
Well, if it is photography related, I think I gave it away earlier. I would put myself into a little tent into the Okavango Delta, and I would listen to the ground hornbills give me a concert in the morning, and the crested francolins waking up and listening to where the lions might be active that early morning. And I'd go out and find new stories every day.
Brilliant. Yes, I don't think you could have chosen a better place. And finally, just before we go, where can people follow you and follow your work? Apart from the YouTube channel, obviously, but where else can people follow you?
I'm mostly represented on Instagram and Facebook. My handle is Janine_wildlife_photography. Social media isn't my strong suit, but I try my utmost best.
Janine, you have been a wonderful guest on the podcast. So thank you very much for joining me.
Thanks, Toby. It was a lot of fun. I really appreciate it.
Well, there we go. The second Pangolin podcast in the can. We hope you've enjoyed it. Before you go, don't forget to sign up to the Pangolin Photo Safari's newsletter. You can do that by heading over to pangolinphoto.com, or you can scan the QR code on your screen, which is going to appear here. If you've enjoyed the podcast, please subscribe to the YouTube channel or wherever you get your podcasts so you don't miss the next one. And while you're there, give us a thumbs up, leave a comment, write a review. Your feedback does mean a lot to us, and we're going to keep developing the format until we get it perfect. Personally, I look forward to seeing you all on a Pangolin Photo Safari soon. And all that's left for me to do now is to say that Pangolin Podcast was hosted by me, Toby German, and produced and edited by Bella Falk. Thank you.